Hey guys, what's up? It's your man Pete, and we're back with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can purchase a condo by assignment, sort of the steps and the hurdles and the obstacles that you have to get through so that you can purchase a brand new unit that's never been lived in before. And yet all you have to do is provide the deposits and down payments as if you're buying a resale condo. We'll get into a little bit of the pros and cons, but in this video, we're going to focus more on the steps and the process of how to get there. And if you're thinking about purchasing a condo by assignment, I assure you, this is going to be a very rewarding and helpful video. So we'll see you guys on the other side right after this. Okay, and we're back. Earlier in the summer, I was working with a client where they were interested in purchasing a condo. They were thinking resale, they were thinking pre-construction, but then after showing them a few properties in the resale market, they didn't quite realize how competitive the bidding and the offer situations can be, and in fact, a little bit stressful, especially when you're a little bit younger. And so at my suggestion, what I recommended to these clients was maybe we should start looking at assignments. They were very much qualified because the parents were helping out to purchase the property for the kids who were a little bit younger, just starting out in their careers, but the parents really wanted to make sure that they had something in the future for their kids. After the process was done, my client basically said, you should make a video about assignments. And I've done a few in the past, but I haven't actually formalized it and done it in a step-by-step guide like I'm about to do in this video. Because there are some differences between resale, and it's also different from pre-construction. It sort of falls somewhere in the middle there. So it's kind of like a hybrid transaction where it doesn't take quite as long as a pre-construction project, which can take anywhere between like 3, 4, 5, or even 7 years. And it's not quite as quick as say a resale unit where it's like you got to close the deal within about 60 days. But it's certainly a more difficult transaction, and you want to make sure that you're working with the professionals when you're doing an assignment. You want to make sure that you're working with a really experienced agent who knows how to do this. And more importantly, you want to make sure that you have a good real estate lawyer who's going to help you look over the contracts, make sure everything is on the up and up, and make sure that you understand the additional financial obligations that you have when you're purchasing a condo by assignment. So you guys ready to go? All right, I got my coffee, I'm ready to go. So the way a condo assignment works is that typically, you may not see it on your MLS system. Sometimes you will, but oftentimes developers don't want agents posting their assignments on MLS because they need to get approval in order to do that. So oftentimes you will find assignments in places like Facebook, Kijiji, Craigslist, but sort of typical your standard interwebs. Yeah, so when you identify sort of an area or a building that you're interested in, the price works, usually your agent or yourself will contact the person who's selling and say, can you send me the floor plans? Can I take a look at the original purchase agreement? Now, I typically don't recommend people trying to do assignments by themselves unless you're very experienced at doing this. Because again, there's a lot of sort of tricky little weird wonky things when it comes to looking at really long form contracts that are coming from the builder's lawyers. So you can look over it, your agent could look over it, especially if they're really experienced. But for sort of a third level, you want to make sure that you have an experienced real estate lawyer that's going to review it. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later in the video. You basically search and look for it. It's a little bit harder to find condos by assignment, or at least to find the right ones that you're looking for. But once you've identified and you found something that you like, typically the units are not really ready to move in for about at least maybe 6 to 12 months or so. So sometimes even the original buyer hasn't even seen the condo unit yet. They've just purchased it based off of floor plan, forward you the contracts so that you can see how many deposits have been made or how much has been paid to the developer. Look over that contract, send it to your lawyer, have your agent review it so that you fully understand what you're purchasing here. Now, sometimes you will find assignments where, they're about to occupy, they're about to do the pre-delivery inspection, and so there is possibly the opportunity for you to go there and check out the unit. And sometimes these units are not perfectly done. There are some flaws and deficiencies, but don't worry, the developer will go back in there and fix everything up. So it's important to go through the place with a fine-tooth comb. That's really sort of the last step once we get over sort of the more important things such as money, financial, and the legal aspects of the contracts. So now that you've found a place that you like, you're working with your agent, you're preparing an offer. So typically it's the assignment agreement that you're using so that it's better understood. The agreement is also a little bit even more confusing than sort of your standard purchase agreement for a resale unit. But the idea is, yeah, so you're looking at the floor plans, you're looking at all the upgrades, the prices, the deposits, all of that stuff. You think you're okay to go ahead. So what you're going to do is you're going to submit an offer, put in, a certain price, put in the closing date. You're not going to be able to do much about the closing date. The seller's not going to be able to do much about the closing date. You're just going to have to base this off of whenever the unit becomes available and finished by the developer. So then what you'll also definitely need to do is you'll need to make sure that you're pre-qualified from your bank or lender to make sure that you can actually close this deal, right? So you have enough cash as a down payment, and then the rest of the mortgage funds are going to be enough to pay out the rest of the money to the seller, or what we call in these contracts, the assignor. So there's actually 4 conditions. So there's a lot of things that we got to get through when it comes to an assignment. Definitely want to make sure you have the financial condition in there because you're going to need more time. The banks are going to need more time to figure out if they can lend to you based on this new value of the property. Because as you know, when somebody buys pre-construction, depending on the project, sometimes it was way cheaper 4 or 5 years ago. And so we have to base it off of the new value of the property, and then the banks have to lend you based on that new value. Banks are pretty jammed up these days, so you're probably looking at least 1 or 2 weeks for them to give you a final answer on approval so that you can remove that condition. Second condition, again, like I mentioned earlier, is the condition to view the property, right? So you definitely want to see the property one time at least before you close on the deal. Some people are okay with the floor plans. They're okay with, driving and going to see the building and sort of identifying exactly which unit it is that they're purchasing. But for me, I really always try to put that in there to allow at least my clients to see it one time, or at least to be there for the pre-delivery inspection so they know what they're purchasing. It's a very reasonable request, and most sellers and their representatives will allow this to happen because, after all, the unit will become yours when you purchase it. So the third thing is you want to make sure that your lawyers have the opportunity to review all the paperwork, like everything that's in there. And this goes both ways. Both the seller and the buyer both get to have this agreement in there to have their lawyers review the contracts in depth and in detail. And again, depends how busy and how long it takes the lawyers to review. Quick these days would probably be about 3 to 5 business days. Sometimes it can extend beyond that if there's, a lot of paperwork and a lot of negotiations going back and forth, or there's confusion about what's happening. But this is a really important point to put in there. The lawyers have to review this. It's super duper important. And then they're supposed to help you identify the additional costs that are going to be borne by you because, of course, when you're buying things pre-construction, you are responsible for things like utility hookups, HST responsibilities, which is a really big thing, and that's definitely something you want to consult with your lawyer. Once everything gets checked out and reviewed and you're okay to go ahead, so then again, that condition can be removed. And you're looking at probably about another 1 or 2 weeks, during the time that you're also doing your financial stuff. And then the fourth condition is obviously the most important one. That's why I've put it last. And this is builder consent. Like the whole deal, everything of an assignment hinges on the builder giving their consent for this transaction to happen. So basically to say, yes, we're willing to transfer the paperwork and ownership from this buyer to this new buyer. And usually a really big requirement that they'll need is your firm mortgage approval. Like they need to have that in their hands, and they need to see that you're qualified for the amount that you're going to close the property on. Usually they don't care too much about deposits. Deposits is really between the buyer and the seller, whatever that arrangement is. Builder just cares that you have the ability to close on this property, because if that doesn't happen, if you cannot close at the end, they're going to go back to the original buyer. And then it sort of becomes like a domino effect. But yeah, at the end of the day, like everything depends on the builder's approval. If they don't agree to it and they don't give their final stamp of approval, then this whole thing doesn't happen and all this work has gone to waste. So again, I just wanted to identify to you guys just how important the financial part of it is. So if the financial part isn't taken care of, nothing else happens. You can't get the builders to approve. You can't go see the unit. None of that stuff can happen without financials. And so typically, even to get the builder's consent, there's usually a financial amount, like $500, $1,000, that must be paid by somebody to process the paperwork, to pay the lawyers, or just to pay the administrative people to prepare the paperwork to transfer to a new person. Now, typically, this is usually paid for by the seller because, of course, they need to initiate this transaction because they're the person that is known to the builder. The new buyer, they don't know who you are. So that's some good news for you if you're a potential condo assignment buyer. Yeah, after all of this is done, after we've jumped through all these hoops, the builder gives consent. That's when we know you have a firm deal. That's when we know that you can proceed. And then what happens is then all the paperwork and everything gets transferred over to you as the new buyer. You get notified from the developer, when you can occupy this unit. They're going to transfer all the warranty stuff. Like everything is going to go to you now. So you're going to be responsible not just for the benefits, but also the obligations and responsibilities. So if there's any further additional costs to close this unit as a pre-construction homeowner, then it's going to come to you as the new buyer or the assignee. And then once you get the keys, what you do is you got to set up your insurance. You've got to set up some post-dated checks so you can pay for the maintenance fees and the occupancies and the estimated property taxes which go to the developer. And then that means, so basically you're paying rent and you're living in the condo unit before it finally closes and when you actually register a mortgage on title, which typically these days is a lot faster. It used to be, around 6 months before a building could actually close or a unit could actually close. These days you're looking at maybe about 1 to 3 months, which is pretty quick depending on how tall and how many units there are in the building. And then really at that point is when you really actually own the unit. Your name is on title, doesn't belong to the builder anymore, doesn't belong to the previous buyer anymore. It's yours now. But yeah, so I think there's some incredible opportunities to purchase condos by assignment right now because again, it's not as expensive as the pre-construction stuff that's being priced into the future. It's a little bit more expensive than resale, obviously, because you're getting a brand new unit. But again, for those of you who can't really wait, you need to move in, fairly quickly and you want to live in a new place. A condo by assignment seems to be the best course of action for you, and we're certainly very experienced at doing that here at Selling Toronto. So if you guys need any direct help or guidance on working on an assignment in the next several months, then give us a shout because we definitely see some great opportunities and we think you're going to do really well if you pick up something this way. Generally, I would say you have to be a little bit more qualified to purchase condos by assignment. Like if you are struggling to come up with 20% down, I don't really recommend that. Better for people who have a little bit better of a financial cash position. So then that way you can sort of jump in and take advantage of opportunities because generally demand isn't as strong for assignments unless they're priced really, really attractively. So I hope this video was helpful, guys. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button, throw us up a like, feel free to leave us a comment. I hope this was useful, informative in some way. Contact is in the description box below. If you guys really want to take advantage of the marketplace and sort of find that little sweet spot, the hybrid model, I think this could work really, really well for you. So thanks again for watching, guys. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one. Make sure you hit subscribe and feel free to stay and watch some more videos. Talk to you soon, and bye for now.